Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Basics with Barbara. My name is Karen Midlow, and I'm joined here with Christine Holt-Souza, and we are here to talk about end of life and care. And we're here with our wonderful guest, Barbara Karnes, who has dedicated the past 42 years of her life to education, care, and the support of dying people and their loved ones. She's an RN and she's an award-winning hospice pioneer and a thought leader on matters about life and death. If you don't have this book, I highly recommend you get it, which is an amazing book. She has over 30 million,
Yeah.
30 million copies and done in different languages. You can get all of her information at bkbooks.com. But if you don't have this one, you definitely have to have it. I have it actually in my office behind plastic so no one can steal it. Um, but anyway, no, that. Um, I just completely screwed up. I lost train of thought. Blue.
It's all good. It's all
I don't know
good.
where my little dealie is. I mean, I wrote up this little deal. That's what my daylight feels like, Barbara. 35 million copies too, is what my notes say.
Okay.
What's a few million?
A lot. Yeah. A lot.
Well,
All right, and I'm not supposed to even be doing that. See, don't ad lib, Karen. Use your notes. Chop chop. One time. Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Karen Midlow, and I'm joined with Christine Holt-Souza, and we get to visit with Barbara Karnes with Basics with Barbara. If you don't know about Barbara and you're just tuning in for the first time, Barbara has dedicated the past 42 years of her life to education, care, and the support of dying people and their loved ones. She's not only an RN, she's an award-winning hospice pioneer and a thought leader on subjects around end of life. She says that there's a normal way of dying, and her materials are written to guide and support anyone who is addressing end of life situations. The goal is to help people have a positive experience so families will have a sacred memory to carry with them. It's a quote by Barbara. And I can attest to that because this book, Gone from Sight, was a life-saving tool for me as my family and I were going through my father's end of life experience. There is over 35 million copies of this little blue book, and it's done in different languages as well. Highly recommend you check out her website to see all the other materials that she has available on bkbooks.com, along with her wonderful blog. We are so grateful to our sponsors, Ancora Health Services, Allsep's Persons Funeral Chapel, and Hillcrest Memorial Gardens for sponsoring this very important end of life channel. And with that, I'm turning it over to you, Christine.
thank you so much, Karen. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us again this month for Basics with Barbara. And I just wanted to ask you this question. I understand that you've had an opportunity to become a patient recently, and I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that experience, about what it was like to actually be a patient, and also maybe any observations or times of reflection, but also maybe any gifts that you receive your wellness journey as you continue to heal.
Hi guys. Glad to be back. It's always a pleasure to be with you. I had a little mishap with my cat, and cat's fine, but I broke a leg. So I had surgery. I was on the other side of the medical establishment, and it was a really interesting, growing experience because I was able to see what our patients and their families see and experience. And I think we need to make a few changes as a result of what I've learned. My biggest disappointment, I will say, is that the majority, doctors, nurses, lab techs, everyone that was in the hospital and in the medical environment saw me as a problem. They saw me as a physical problem. They didn't see Barbara Carnes, this scared, person in this bed. They didn't see that. They saw a broken ankle and the lack of interaction on a personal level. Hi, how you doing today? What's going on? Oh, that kind of interaction um, made made me feel without that interaction, it made me feel like an object, not like a person, a scared, uncomfortable person. So that was probably the biggest revelation. And I knew that that this is part of how our medical system works. I knew that, and I've talked about addressing that issue. But being on the other side, I felt what it felt like. Wasn't intellectual. I was emotionally feeling um, what it feels like to be an object and not a person. And so we really need in our healthcare to really make that adjustment, make that change, to recognize we're taking care of people, and the people we're taking care of are all scared. Various levels of fear, along with pain and discomfort and all of that, but fear is there. And so we need to, I won't use the word cure, but we need to address and we need to address the fear and neutralize it. And we do that with attention.
Oh my gosh. One of the things that I read in your blog, Barbara, was about how the CNAs were, you really connected with the CNAs. And I really feel like they are the backbone of healthcare because they are providing that. Physical care, and they do get to spend some time in situations where there is a level of vulnerability, and a space where you are vulnerable and scared, and so they do create this level of comfort, and it's intimate. Some of those situations that we are in can be an intimate caring situation, and so as we continue to explore what that might look like with our healthcare providers. I think hindsight is always 2020, but we never know until we're actually in that situation how important it is to really treat the person as a whole person and not their disease or their diagnosis.
Well, and the CNA, as you said, they're seeing and interacting on a really personal level. I mean, when you're totally naked and having someone help you get to the bathroom or pee, that's a real personal vulnerability and exposure. And the CNAs were call me by name and hello, and the weather outside is, and you're doing a great job, and here, let me support you. They recognized my fear, my inability to do things, but they did it with a smile and an attention to Barbara, the person inside this body that isn't working, you know. Um, and that there was a great deal of comfort in that, a comfort in, even though I was exposed and we are exposed, even that there's in that vulnerability, there was a personal connection where with a lot of our medical um, people, physicians, nurses, technicians, you're not really being addressed or seen as a person. And the CNA saw me as a person and talked about the weather and, gave me a little touch of being normal.
I love that so much. I think one of the frustrations that I have experienced as when I was a hospice nurse is that it was task oriented. I needed to do all these tasks, and I really felt frustrated of the there's just not enough time, to be honest. There's just not enough time to be at the bedside. And even though we all want to have time at the bedside, the demand is just huge. And so it does make me feel sad about the lack of time. And but still, if we don't have an this perceived time at the bedside, the time that we do get to spend with people, really recognizing that if someone really just wants to talk about, something other than their disease process, I think that that really adds a human component into the experience. I think it can really make a difference.
Well, and I mean, just walking into the room and looking the patient in the eye and say, "Hi, my name's John, and I'm going to be your technician, and I'm going to draw some blood. And that's going to hurt a little, maybe I'll try for it," to interact and talk rather than walk in the room. "Yeah, I'm going to draw some blood." And you put the hand out. Um, as a hospice nurse, the first thing I did when I walked into a house that I'd never met the people before was, "Hi, my name is Barbara, and I'm going to be your hospice nurse." And I reached out to shake hands because that was touching. It was a socially acceptable way to touch, but it was touching. By the time I left, my goal was to be able to say, "Can I give you a hug goodbye?" And I've got my standard, "Is there anything else we need to talk about?" Those standards. But that personal touch makes a huge difference. Looking a person in the eye and smiling and, "I see you." Um, that's healthcare. That's that's healing. That's as strong as any medicine.
Just last question, what are the any gifts that you received in this experience?
Oh, the biggest gift was seeing what we in the medical profession are not doing. Um, that I think was the biggest gift. And then now I'm trying to um, give that back to anyone who will listen. Um, it was a personal life experience to be on the receiving end because I am a giver and a doer, and to be physically vulnerable has been a life experience, because all of that goes against my personality and how I've lived my life. I've been in charge of me, and other people I've had to relinquish that charge to others. And that was also a big life experience.
What a gift. What a gift, Barbara. You continue to just give us your wisdom and your knowledge. And even through your own life experiences, you're teaching us, which we are so very, very grateful. And please join us next month when we will be finding out some more with Barbara. But in the meantime, feel free to check out all of her wonderful books and her pamphlets on bkbooks.com. And along with signing up for her blog, I promise you she doesn't spam you, but you will get some kind of wonderful news every week in your box. It's really helpful. Just those little tidbits, and it takes just a few minutes to read. So Thank you, Barbara, for all you do to continue to educate all of us in hospice and healthcare and make a difference as you have done for 40 plus years. Thank you so much. Be well, everybody. And don't forget, dying doesn't happen like it does on the movies. Have a great one.